Welcome to Top 15 IPC chart for mid-2020. We do expect more CPUs coming later this year, especially Zen 3 from AMD is really exciting CPU. Also, it's coming Intel Tiger Lake, and the last CPU which is coming is Apple A14, which will power the ARM MacBooks. But before those CPUs will arrive later this year, we can actually take a look how AMD, Intel, and Apple and the other cores they are standing among each other. This table is based on the Geekbench 5 results from the database, which is available to anybody. So actually, you can search the Geekbench 5 scores, and based on the gigahertz, the score divided by gigahertz, I'm receiving the score per gigahertz, which is actually the IPC. And because I am AMD fan, actually, I'm proud owner of Ryzen 3700X. I'm really happy that we can start with the AMD CPU here. Good old Zen 1 architecture on a 15 place here, and it delivers 86.6 IPC to Intel. Actually, it's a Coffee Lake refresh 9900K, so pretty good result for AMD, especially when we compare it to AMD Bulldozer here on the number 23 position. So we can see the FX 8350 from 2011 has a really terrible IPC. It's like a half IPC than Zen 1 actually. So this is the source of the problem for this architecture. And another example is also the Pentium 4. This is the funny thing here, and we can see there is a really even half IPC than even the really poor Bulldozer. So no wonder the Pentium 4 was kind of disaster for Intel at the time. I would like to mention the Raspberry Pi CPU, and actually this is the Cortex A72 here, the codename Maya. It's architecture from 2015, and we can see here it has an IPC about half of Zen 1. It's kind of low IPC, but in Raspberry Pi, which is consuming like a 1 watt, it's pretty good performance actually. Pretty good IPC, especially when we compare it to Phenom 2. I had a Phenom 2 CPU, 960T, and it could be overclocked to 4 GHz. At that time, it was excellent CPU, and this Raspberry Pi thing has the same IPC like Phenom 2. Another interesting thing to be mentioned here are those Cortex Core A73 and A75, which is right now it's powering the majority of the smartphones. And when we compare the IPC, yeah, the IPC of even like a mid-range and cheap smartphones, the IPC is not bad actually. It's way lower than the Zen 1 architecture, but it has a higher IPC than the Core 2 Duo. It was great CPU at the time. It has a better IPC than Phenom 2. So it's actually not bad, the architecture. Let's go take a look to position number 14. So, and position number 14 is the Intel Haswell. So it's kind of ancient CPU, but we can see here it's from 2013, but the IPC is pretty good. So it's kind of similar to Zen 1. Yeah, so old good Haswell has a still pretty nice IPC even in compared to today CPUs actually. Position number 13, and it's a ARM Cortex A76, the codename Enio. This is actually architecture from 2018, and it's of course it's ARM architecture 8.2, and it has a slight but almost the same IPC as the Haswell. It's just like a 2%. This is almost nothing. So it's kind of surprising that actually this Cortex A76 is in Graviton 2 architecture, the server of the Amazon server chips, and also in the Snapdragon 855. So some better smartphones, they do have this A76, and we can see that in terms of IPC, the A76 is really desktop class architecture from ARM. So actually not bad. So let's take a look on the other position, and the position number 12 is Intel 10 900K, the Comet Lake. Actually, this is this year CPU, so it's interesting, and it's number 12. So this year new CPU from Intel, and it's only number 12 position. And but the strength of this Intel Comet Lake is the high frequency. So the absolute performance is pretty good, but in terms of IPC, it's still you can see it's like meeting the 9900K here, because when we do uncover position number 11, number 11 is the Coffee Lake refresh, which is the 9900K. So we can see that IPC difference between Comet Lake and Coffee Lake is actually, there is no difference in the terms of IPC. So it's actually almost the same architecture. Okay, let's take a look on position number 10. And position number 10 is Cortex A77. This is part of the new Snapdragon 865 in some high-end smartphones like Samsung S20. And we can see that the IPC is actually 3%, not much, but 3% above Intel Coffee Lake and Comet Lake actually. So this is evidence that ARM CPUs in some high-end smartphones, they actually already caught the x86 desktop CPUs, especially of course in terms of IPC, not in terms of frequency, of course. This CPU has a because the Snapdragon has a 2.84 gigahertz, and in the plus version of the Snapdragon, it's a 3.1 gigahertz, but still Intel Comet Lake has a 5.3 gigahertz, so it's almost twice faster because of the higher frequency. But the architecture is not bad actually, because the IPC is pretty nice. So now let's go to position number 9. And the number 9 position is, voila, Zen 2. So yeah, my Zen 2, even here is a 16 core, which is able to run 4.6 on the single thread for this test. So the IPC is but the IPC is like almost equal to this Cortex core, but still AMD Zen is doing great job right now, and I'm really happy that we can see AMD such a for this nice position actually. So yeah, let's take a look on the other position, and Jesus Christ, okay. And position number 8, voila, it's an Apple A9 Twister. This is kind of surprising, probably for everybody, or most of the people, because this core is actually from 2015. And Apple is developing in secret one of the best CPU architectures, and it's locked only for iPhones and iPads. And but the IPC is absolutely excellent. You can see 10% above Intel Coffee Lake, which is here the metric here. So it's excellent because Coffee Lake actually is 2018, even today Comet Lake 2020, but it's original Sky Lake from 2015. So we can see that actually Apple in terms of IPC is really good. Position number 7, and the position number 7 is A78 Hercules. This is actually the ARM Cortex core, which was released this year together with the Cortex X1, and yeah, not bad performance there. So actually the IPC is actually equal to Apple A9 from 2015, and it's above Zen 2 architecture, so not bad actually. But if we take a look on the position number 6, and position number 6 is Intel Ice Lake. Intel Ice Lake is pretty good architecture in terms of IPC. Ice Lake brought IPC 18% higher than Coffee Lake, so it's really good in terms of IPC. Here in Geekbench 5 benchmark, it's showing 16% above Coffee Lake and Comet Lake. So yeah, it's those 18% Intel measured in spec 2006 benchmark. So we can see the spec benchmark and this Geekbench 5. It's pretty simple. It's providing similar results. So yeah, and I can say here that this is the best x86 CPU in terms of IPC in this chart. And position number 5, come on, it's Apple A10 Hurricane from 2016. It has a pretty nice, almost 19% above Comet Lake, so it's a pretty nice architecture. So we can go uncover position number 4, and position number 4 actually is the Cortex X1. This is pretty nice architecture from ARM, and yeah, it has a pretty huge IPC jump. It's 30% above Cortex A77 here. So you can see, actually this is the estimated result here. This is not measured on the Snapdragon, because Snapdragon A75, which should be in the silicon end of this year or January, beginning of the next year. So they will be benchmarked the CPUs. So this is just projections provided by ARM actually. And let's go to position number 3. And position number 3 is Apple A11 Monsoon. This is actually not big surprise, because actually this Monsoon, this is the first 6 LAU architecture on the world. And yeah, already in 2017. So Apple is kind of leading the architecture, and it's providing absolutely monsters 41% above Intel Coffee Lake and the Comet Lake. So yeah, it's absolutely monsters in terms of IPC. So next year, when the Golden Cove will enter the market, maybe end of next year, but even Golden Cove will have a problem to beat this Apple old core. So yeah, from 2017. So this is kind of surprising, and probably most people doesn't know about it. And yeah, we can also go and uncover the other CPU cores, because the second position is again Apple. This is A12 Vortex. This is the minor upgrade of this brand new architecture. This is also 6 LAUs. It has a redesigned memory subsystem, and it's providing almost 60% above Intel Comet Lake. So yeah, and let's go uncover the winner is actually again it's Apple Lightning Core. This is kind of middle upgrade of Apple architecture, because Apple is every 4 years they are redesigning and making brand new architecture, and every 2 years they do some let's say middle redesign. So this Lightning is the middle redesign of the 6 LAU architecture here. So, and it's providing 14% IPC jump from Vortex, and it's providing absolutely disaster 81, almost 82% above Intel Coffee Lake and Comet Lake. So yeah, it's getting close to double IPC in compared to Intel. And I know this is the IPC table, but if we take a look on the absolute score here, yeah, here you can see the Apple is actually beating Zen 2 in terms of absolute performance. Even it's running 2.6 gigahertz, because of really strong IPC, it's beating even in the absolute performance. Only the 5 gigahertz, 5.3 gigahertz Comet Lake can be faster, but again the Coffee Lake is really close, and the new Ice Lake, because of the lower frequency, because Intel has a problem with the 10 nanometer process. Yeah, new Ice Lake, despite higher IPC, is beaten by Apple A13. So yeah, so it will be really exciting this year when Apple will release Apple A14. So we can expect something higher. So we can expect some minor upgrade of the Apple A13. So the IPC will be really close to the double to the Coffee Lake, and Apple will probably take a lead in terms of absolute single thread performance. And yeah, we can talk also about Zen 3, guys. I am waiting for the Zen 3 especially. And the Zen 3 should be 15% above Zen 2 actually here. Let's erase it. So Zen 2 is here, and 15% above that is about 120. So it's somewhere here actually. And you can see this is the range for the Zen 3, probably a little bit higher, like probably 121, something like that. I think Zen 3 will provide more than 50% IPC, my personal estimation. Yeah, so it's really exciting, the Zen 3, yeah, but the Cortex X1 from this year will probably outperform Zen 3. So this is kind of interesting situation, because this Cortex X1 should be the part of the next server platform, the M2 Neoverse, called Zeus. So it's kind of competitor in the server market for AMD and also Intel Ice Lake. So yes, the Cortex cores will be really strong in the servers, and probably Zen 3 will be the best x86 architecture, and Intel without Intel need actually the Golden Cove, and the Golden Cove will be somewhere here, and yeah, Intel desperately needs Golden Cove and a good 10 nanometer process. So it will be really exciting next year. And but the king of the IPC is Apple. Apple will be somewhere 190, maybe 200% IPC of Intel Coffee Lake, Comet Lake. Yeah, it's double IPC. Okay, this is the end of the top 15 IPC chart. There is more CPUs which is coming end of this year. And I hope you like this video, because for me those IPC data was really surprising, because guys, I am the AMD fan, and I knew that the Cortex cores, they are doing well in the smartphones, but I didn't expect the new ones, the Cortexes A77 and above, they are doing really good job. I didn't expect that actually my Zen 2, my Ryzen is in terms of IPC outperformed by Cortex A77, and even the new Hercules and the Cortex X1 is way better. This was really surprising to me. And the Apple cores are totally shocking. The performance, the IPC of the Apple cores are really shocking to me. So yeah, I hope you like this video, and if you have some questions, just yeah, leave me a comment.